So we have these two groups. The first being the Pilgrims. Those were the people who wanted to completely break away from the Anglican Church. And the second group being the Puritans. Those are the people who showed up about 10 years later. They settled the Massachusetts Bay Colony and they came with many more resources available. Now we've seen with the Puritans that they are very focused on perfection. They are holding themselves to an incredibly high moral standard, and we saw that through both the City Upon a Hill sermon / speech and these sinners in the hands of an angry God. So these are people who are very strict, very intense, and if you were living in that community, you might start feeling a little chafed by all the rules. So what do you do if you find yourself on the outskirts of your new Puritan community? Well, if you're Roger Williams, a famous dissident, within about 6 years of its founding, you get yourself kicked out, head down to Rhode Island, hang out with the Narragansett tribe, and you found a new place. And because you think, thanks God, I'm really into this, you name it Providence. Roger Williams got kicked out because he was talking about religious tolerance and questioning whether or not the community should open its doors a little bit more and be a little bit more lenient. And that community did not like that. So he went along, and there were other people who followed shortly thereafter, whether by choice or not. But he was one of the lucky ones, because getting kicked out was not the only option if you did not follow the rules. Before we go down the Salem route and start talking about the Salem witch trials, I do want to make mention of at least a couple fantastic things that Puritans brought and cemented when they came over. So one would be this idea that everyone should have equal access to religion and God, and therefore everyone needed to be able to read the Bible and everyone needed to be able to read. So knowing that Massachusetts is always competing for the #1 in the nation for education makes a lot of sense if you understand that our cultural forefathers were really into reading. In fact, it was this group of people who created Harvard. That was the first college in the nation, and originally it was for young men to go and study the Bible, and we still know it as one of the most fantastic institutions of higher knowledge. So that's one major thing. The other thing is this idea that everyone should have equal access. So again, that would make a lot of sense when you start looking at which parts of the country were anti-slavery earlier on. So for New Englanders, it would make more sense because it aligns with their cultural religious beliefs about everyone being an equal child of God. Now again, you do not need to feel religious in any way. This is not any kind of support one way or the other for believing, not believing, or believing any certain way. But if you are in New England, you are definitely influenced by these ideas.